Good day! Welcome to Apes in the Home. Today we will be looking briefly at impacts of agricultural practices and how we can help mitigate those practices with some sustainable practices. Agricultural practices that can cause environmental damages include tilling, slash and burn farming, and the use of certain fertilizers. Take a moment and see if you can list off any impacts that would stem from these practices. As you can see from the first image of a farmer tilling their land, the farmer is removing any crop cover or protection to the soil that could have been there if the crop cover was left. This is usually done before planting to soften up the land or after harvesting, before manure or a fertilizer is spread on it to prepare for the spring planting season. Obviously, this can be detrimental to our local waterways, as runoff will always be a problem without roots holding that soil in place. Slash and burn is usually done to clear an area to create a monoculture. This isn't common practice in America anymore, but burning the plants actually adds nutrients through the ash back to the soil, and farmers will initially have a great harvest because of the added nutrients. This obviously will change as the nutrients are taken up and no new ash is added to the soil. Adding fertilizer to a crop is another way to make sure the crop is successful. The problem with most fertilizers for a monoculture or a large farming production is the fact that the fertilizer is rarely added directly to the roots of the plant. So yet again, as with the other practices mentioned, fertilizer is easily put into our waterways, creating new problems downstream. The goal of soil conservation is to prevent soil erosion. Different methods of soil conservation include contour plowing, windbreaks, perennial crops, terracing, no-till agriculture, and strip cropping. The first image we are looking at is contour plowing. Here, they are using the contours of the land to make sure minimal water is running off the land. The rows are planted in such a way that it can catch and slow down any water trying to run off into the local stream. Windbreaks are lines of trees or bushes that are going to protect a plot of land from wind that will pick up exposed soil. Perennial crops are plants that will come back and produce every year. There isn't as high of a demand in America for these. For example, corn is definitely not a perennial crop. Terracing is another way to ensure less runoff occurs. We rarely use this in North America because most of our farming communities are not found in mountainous areas. No-till agriculture is an excellent way to make sure soil stays where it should be. My dad tried this on a plot of land, and it turns out that not many farmers try this method because it takes about 3 years to get the same yield as tilling and fertilizers. Strip cropping is where, on a plot of land, you will have alternating plants being grown. Most farms in Lancaster County use this method to aid in soil health. Strategies to improve soil fertility include crop rotation and the addition of green manure and limestone. Crop rotation involves having a different crop growing on a plot of land in the next year. This practice gives the soil a break, and many farmers will add a crop into the rotation that will add nutrients into the ground, like alfalfa, which is a legume. Please review what legumes add to the soil. Green manure is a fertilizer consisting of growing plants that are plowed back into the soil. This image looks like they are taking clover and plowing it or mixing it back into the soil. This past fall, I put grass clippings on one of my gardens for cover over the winter, and it will hopefully break down and add some nutrients back into the garden. Limestone is added to soil to help the soil become less acidic. Rotational grazing is the regular rotation of livestock between different pastures in order to avoid overgrazing in a particular area. Well, hopefully that was enlightening or a good review for you. Let your teacher know if you have any questions, and have a great night.